My name is Hayden Poston. My partners' names are Luis Alfaro and Tamim Nashnoush, and our game is called Alliance. The rules and roles for this game are quite simple. There are 5 roles: thief, detective, civilian, banker, and spy. There can be multiple civilians and multiple thieves, but there cannot be more than one banker, detective, and spy. Each role has different conditions to win. The thief's role is to attain $3,000 and leave the country. The detective's goal is to catch the thief before the set amount of turns and prevent him from escaping the country. The spy's goal is to choose a side, to sabotage and choose a side to help throughout the game. The civilian's goal is to keep his money over $1,700 by the end of the game. And the banker does not have a goal to win. The banker narrates and distributes money to the players. As I said before, the spy chooses which side he wants to win and which side he wants to lose. So by doing that, everyone will close their eyes at the beginning of the game, and the banker would reveal the identity of the detective and the thief. The spy would then point to the person he wants to help and point to the person he wants to sabotage. Everyone starts with $500 in this game, with the banker narrating for the majority of the time. As I said before, the banker distributes money, and as the game goes on, you can gain and lose money. It is imperative that you keep your identity hidden at all times in this game. It would make each player's life a lot easier. For example, if the thief's identity were to be revealed to the detective could jail the thief, and the thief would lose half their money and not be able to move for 3 turns. However, if the thief keeps identity hidden for the entire game, then he'll have an easier time taking money and gaining money without anyone knowing who he is, and he'll be able to escape the country. What I meant about the set amount of turns earlier was you will play in 5-turn increments, which means you can play up to 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, etc. turns. For example, the thief's role is to gain 3,000 before the end of the game. If the thief cannot escape the country and gain 3,000 by the allotted time, then the opposing team of the detective would win, and because they couldn't escape the country. That is the rules and roles of our game, Alliance.
After choosing their roles, players will then roll the dice, and depending on which color spot they land on, they will pick a card with a corresponding color. For example, if they land on green, they will then pick a green card. Green cards are usually cards that will affect the player in a positive way, especially financially. For example, this card says you will win a small lottery and gain $500. So as a result, the banker will then give the player that landed on the green spot $500. Say, for example, if the player rolled a 6 and landed on a red spot, they will then pick a red card to match the corresponding color of the spot they landed on. In this game, red cards usually have an adverse impact on the players. If you land on a red spot, chances are something bad will happen to you, especially in a financial aspect. For example, in this case, the player has just been robbed and lost $250, so as a result, the banker will then take $250 from the player. Now say, for example, you rolled a 2. You will then pick a gray card. Gray cards are role-specific cards, meaning depending on your role, the action that you do may differ. For example, if you are a civilian, what you do will be different than what a detective has to do upon landing on this card. For example, if you're a civilian, everybody must donate $200 to you. And if you're a detective, you must do what the detective does, and you must spy on who you think the thief is. And if you're wrong, then you lose $500. And you do what a spy does, and the thief is the only one that does not have to do exactly what the thief does. This is the part of the game where strategy plays a big role. For example, if you can do the role of the spy, and you take $300 from a player and give it to somebody else, this is where you want to be smart about it. Ideally, one would take $300 from the player in first place and give it to the player in last place in order to level the playing field. Additionally, if you're the spy, in order to use a better strategy to win the game, you can take $300 from the player of the team that opposes you and give it to the player that is on your team. For example, if you have chosen to help out the thief, you would ideally take $300 from the person closest to achieving their goal and give that $300 to the thief in order to help the thief, because you guys have an alliance. To elaborate on the thief's role, in this situation, the thief would be able to both choose between going back 2 spaces or do what the civilian does and collect $200 from everybody, depending on what will benefit the thief the most. This is another part where strategy comes in and where the masters are separated from the beginners. It should be noted that thieves can only choose between the thief's role and the civilian's role. Thieves cannot choose the detective role and the spy role when they land on gray spots. Decisions like these can either win the game for some or lose the game for others, so these decisions must be made carefully. Each player will also be given 2 discussion cards. Discussion cards will allow for players to stop the game when it is their turn and discuss among the other players who they believe the thief is. During this time, players will be able to make their pleas and speculate who they believe the thief is and perhaps help the detective catch the thief. Most of the rules of the game have been explained, but as the game proceeds, some rules will be further explained. But for now, it's time to start the game. Just for the sake of this simulation, the car will be the detective, the boat will be the thief, and the hat will be the spy. So just to clarify, nobody knows who the thief and the detective are apart from the banker and the spy. Next is the boat, and the boat rolled a 6. Because the boat landed on a red spot, it will now take a red card. You stepped on a crack and broke your mother's back. You lose $500. So as a result, the boat puts its money in the middle for it to be claimed when somebody crosses one of the paths of fortune. All money put in the middle will only be there for 2 rounds, and after that they will expire and will go to the bank. So you have 2 rounds to claim this money by getting lucky enough to land on the path of fortune and make it to the middle. Now it is time for the spy to go. The spy has rolled a 4. Because it landed on a gray spot, it will get a gray card. And although there are many rules on this, the spy must do what it says to do for the spy. So in this case, the spy must share $400 with the person of their choosing. So let's say for the sake of the simulation, the spy is helping the thief. In this case, it would be smartest for the spy to give $400 to the thief. Okay, so now that the first round is passed, let's say for the sake of the simulation, the car is on the path of fortune and it is the car's turn to roll. So the car has rolled a 6. Because the car has passed through all 5 of these spaces, it goes straight to the middle, collects what is in the middle if it has not been 2 rounds yet, and gets transported to the very next gray spot clockwise and continues on from there. If the car was already here and rolled, let's say, a 4, it will go 1, then transports here, then 2, 3, 4. And then it proceeds and does whatever the red card instructs it to do. Now for the sake of the simulation, let's say the hat landed on the M, the path of misfortune, and must now Roll when it is its turn again, and proceed that many spaces. So for example, I rolled a 1, so the hat will go 1 space. For each space it lands on here, it will collect a red card and do what the red card instructs it to do until it makes its way to the middle. So for example, the hat has just been robbed $250. So the hat must put $250 in the middle. And these can be collected before they expire within 2 rounds. To continue with the demonstration, the hat will then, once it's its turn again, will roll again, 4. So it'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. Because it has not yet reached the middle, it will once again pick a red card and do what the red card instructs it to do. Okay, so now that you're hopefully starting to get the gist of the game, let's flash forward to the end of the game in a scenario where the detective can win. Let's say, for example, the car, who is a detective, landed on a gray spot and draws a gray card. This card says for the detective, spy who you think the thief is. If wrong, lose $500. So here the detective has a chance to guess who the thief is and possibly win the game. It is at a time like this in the game where skill-based elements will be used the most. For example, if the detective still has discussion cards, it would be a great strategy to play one of them. Here the detective will have time to discuss amongst the players and basically interrogate who they think the thief is. Questions that the detective can ask can include, hey, boat, why did you collect $300 from everybody that one turn? And then if the boat gives a solid reason and sells it off and say, oh, yeah, I was instructed to do so because my card said, oh, collect $300 from everybody as a charity. If the boat says it very smoothly and calmly and sells it off, then this may be believable. However, if the boat says, and stutters and seems very unsure, this can once again separate the masters from the beginners and can give up the boat's position and possibly expose them as the thief. Now the discussion's over and everybody has been able to speculate and defend themselves how they will. It is now time for the detective to make a choice. Let's say for the sake of the simulation, the detective has chosen to speculate that the boat is the thief. Because this is the truth and the boat is indeed the thief, the game will be over and those on the detective and civilian side will have won. And alternatively, because the spy was trying to help the thief win, the spy and the thief have lost now that the thief has been caught. In conclusion, there are many skill-based elements in this game, depending on your role, and many times where decision-making and critical thinking may be required for you to win or lose the game. We believe our game Alliance also has a great balance of chance-based elements and makes it a fun game to play for people of various ages.